Hi you guys, today we are doing a lesson on multiplication patterns. This is a really great lesson to learn and keep with you when you get into multiplying numbers because there are certain powers when working with powers of 10, and it's a great tool to use to help you, and you will be able to solve some finding products mentally. So let's go over this. So we're using multiplication. We're looking for patterns that we'll go through and identify. And if they want you to find the product mentally, that should be a hint that you might be able to use a patterns trick to help you solve without doing an algorithm. Let's first start with going back a little bit to exponents, and we're going to work with exponents using powers of 10. So powers of 10 are 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, and we'll stop there because we could go on and on and on. So this is 1/10, so this would be 10 to the first, okay? A great thing with working with powers of 10 and exponents is it relates to how many zeros. Notice that the 1 doesn't change, it's still there. All that's happening is the 1 is getting bumped up the place value chart based on how many zeros there are. I have 1 0, 2 zeros, 3 zeros, 4 zeros, so it would keep going. That is the pattern. So how do I write this using exponents? Well, it's still a base of a 10, it's a power of 10, but I have 2 zeros, so this is 10 to the second. 1,000 is 10, but there's 3 zeros, so it's 10 to the third. 10,000 is 10 to the fourth power because there's 4 zeros. So keeping this in mind is going to help you when we solve some problems, okay? So again, working with powers of 10 are very fun. I can go backwards. I can say, what would 10 to the fifth be? Well, it would be 10, and there should be 5 zeros. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would equal 100,000. Let's go ahead now and solve what your book might be asking you. So if you're following along with McGraw-Hill, we are still in chapter 2, and we are working with multiplication patterns. So let's say I had 7 times 10 to the second. Okay, first of all, get rid of the exponent. Can you do 7 times 10? Yes, that would be 70. But we just learned about exponents. 10 to the second is not just 10. So let's break this out. 10 to the second is saying multiply 10 twice by itself. So that would be a 10 times a 10. And I need to solve that. 10 times 10 is 100. Here's a trick. Remember what we just did with our power of 10 patterns. 10, and there should be 2 zeros. So if I have a 10 with 2 zeros, that would be 100, okay? 10 times 10 is 100. And then bring down what it wanted me to multiply it by, which was a 7. And now 7 times 100 is 700. Here's another trick. When you're multiplying this, take the 7 and the 1 and multiply that. 7 times 1 is 7, and then add how many zeros are attached to that power of 10. There are 2. So the answer would be 700. Let's do another one. What if I have 3 times 10 to the third? So let's break out what 10 to the third is. 10 to the third is 10, but there needs to be 3 zeros. So far I have 1. I need 3 zeros. So 10 to the third is the same thing as 1,000. And they want me to multiply that times 3. So your first step is break out what the 10 exponent is. Whatever power it is, make sure you break it out first. Because again, this is not 10 times 3, which is 30. This is a power of 10. It wants 10 to the third power. It's using an exponent. And we need to break down what it actually is. 10 to the third is 1,000. Now I can multiply. 3 times 1,000 is 3,000. There's a trick you can do as well if you don't know this. You can take 3, whatever number's over here, multiply it times the 1, which would be 3, and then in the power of 10 number, how many zeros are there? There are 3, so just attach them. So your answer would be 3,000. Let's go ahead and do some different ones. What if I had 22 times 10 to the second? Okay, so now we have a bigger whole number over here that we're multiplying times that power of 10. So again, first take care of the power of 10. 10 to the second means there should be a 10 with 2 zeros. So 10 to the second is the same thing as 100. So they're saying multiply 22 times 100. So here's what you do. Take this number and multiply it times the 1. 22 times 1 is 22. And how many zeros are you left in your power of 10 number? There are 2 zeros. And add them to your answer. So you have 2,200 as your answer. Let's do another one. Let's do 9,000 times 3. So we're not going to do a power of 10. Now we're going to move on, but we can still apply some of the patterns that we identified when we were doing powers of 10. Here's a trick. If you're doing multiplication and you have zeros on one of the numbers, you can do this. So go ahead and multiply the number here that's by itself times the number out front of the zeros. 9 times 3, which is 27. How many zeros were attached to the 9? There were 3. So add them in your answer, and there you go. 9,000 times 3 is 27,000. What if I had 400 times 2? So take your 2, multiply it times the number out front of the zeros, which is a 4. So 2 times 4 is 8, and then attach how many zeros were attached to the 4. How many zeros were in the 400? There are 2. So attach them into your answer. So your answer is 800. I could do these all day. Let's find another one. Let's do 14 times 2,000. So here's another, big one. Okay, so 14 times 2,000. So don't panic. You can still do our little trick here. Take the 14, multiply it times the number out front of the zeros. These are the zeros. What's the number attached? It's a 2. So 14 times 2. That's a little bit easier than 14 times 2,000. 14 times 2 is 28. And then attach the zeros that were there. There were 3 of them. So your answer is 28,000. All right, you guys, I hope that you enjoy using multiplication patterns. Remember that this relates to powers of 10. And be sure to always refer back to this if you guys need help with powers of 10 and working with exponents and multiplication. Be sure to check out the other videos that are related to prime factorization and multiplication for Chapter 2 with McGraw-Hill.